I still remember that morning with perfect clarity. Even 10 years later, it feels like the moment my life split in two. It was a crisp spring day, the kind where dogwood blossoms feather the sidewalks, and I'd pulled my minivan into the gravel lot of St. Matthew's Church for the wedding rehearsal. My daughter, Ella, then 5, wore a pale lavender dress, her curls pinned with tiny daisies. I carried her on my hip up the stone steps, my heart full of pride and hope. Inside the hall, the bride's mother paused mid-speech. The women from my book club, once my closest friends, hovered in a circle, their eyes narrowing. I waved, tried to smile, but felt every weight in the room drop onto my shoulders. Over the clink of silverware and rehearsal wine glasses, I heard Liza whisper to Rochelle, "Can you believe she's a single mom?" Rochelle smirked, so I caught her eye and tried to brush it off. I'd known whispers followed me since campus, that I'd gotten pregnant at 22, abandoned my dreams of New York, and retreated to our hometown, but I'd also weathered life's storms. My ex vanished, my small bookstore went under, and I raised Ella alone, juggling 2 jobs and gig nights as a barista. I was proud of how far we'd come, yet in that moment, pride dissolved into shame. The rehearsal sputtered into awkward silence as the pastor tried again. I swept Ella's hair back and led her to her seat among the flower girls. When the bride, Meredith, my college roommate, sashayed in, the room reset itself. She was a vision in blush silk, shoulders gleaming, hair piled into a perfect updo. Carter, her fiancé, grinned at me. "Thanks for bringing Ella," he whispered, his voice warm, but the ladies' glances stung sharper than any rebuke. After the rehearsal dinner, a catered affair in the parish hall, Liza cornered me by the punch bowl. "Hey Jane," she said, testing her lipstick with a fingertip. "So it must be tough, right? Raising a kid alone, juggling everything." I met her gaze evenly. "It's hard work, but Ella's my joy." She sighed dramatically. "I mean, Carter says every girl's dream is to be a princess on her wedding day. You've got your hands full." She indicated Ella with a tilt of her chin. "Don't want anything to spill on that dress, honey." I forced a laugh. "She's careful, like her mom." She turned on her heel. Rochelle's laughter trailed behind them like pollen. I closed my eyes, blinking back tears as I refilled my cup. Later, at home, I sat on the edge of Ella's pink bedspread, tucking her into her favorite unicorn quilt. She looked up at me, concern in her big brown eyes. "Mommy, are you sad?" "Sad? No, pumpkin." I kissed her forehead. "I'm proud of you." She cuddled her stuffed fox. "I'm glad you're my mommy." Her simple love was balm. But that night, I lay awake, replaying Liza's sneer, Rochelle's giggles, the suffocating hush that greeted me. I thought of Meredith's flawless veneer, her designer gown, her bride tribe in identical champagne, sequin dresses, and wondered if she even saw me beyond my so-called imperfections. The morning of the wedding dawned bright. Sunlight streamed through stained glass windows as Ella and I helped deliver corsages to the waiting mothers. I pinned a topaz boutonniere on Carter's lapel. He winked. "You're a lifesaver." We stepped outside for photos. The garden's wisteria draped like pale jewels. Photographers hustled, capturing Meredith's laughter as she drifted by. And then behind me, a sudden commotion. A sleek black SUV rolled up. Out stepped a tall man in a charcoal suit, his commanding presence splitting the crowd. Whispers rose. That must be Gregory Steele, the groom's mentor. No, business partner? He strode toward us, phone to his ear. Ella tugged at my hand. "Mom, who's that?" I swallowed. "Someone important to Carter." Inside, I felt adrenaline spike. Could this be the moment everything changed? Gregory ended his call and approached Carter, placing a firm hand on his shoulder. "Big day, my friend." Carter's smile was tight. "Greg, thanks for coming." Greg shot me a glance, one brief, appraising look that made my skin prickle. Then he turned to Meredith, offered a warm smile, and greeted her as she approached the archway. They exchanged a few words in low tones. She laughed, bright, genuine. He nodded toward Ella and me, and I wanted to find Jane to thank you. My chest constricted. "Me?" He removed sunglasses. Blue eyes. "Yes, Jane, but I don't need pretenses. Angela said you'd be here, but I needed to say thank you." I blinked, stunned. "I'm not sure I understand." He tucked his phone away. "The car outside? The SUV? It's courtesy transport for you and Ella. My gift to Carter so he could focus on Meredith without worrying about parking, logistics, or bad weather. And Angela told me how you've always been there for him since his college days when you covered for him at the coffee shop so he could study." My breath caught. I hadn't known Angela, Carter's sister, had even mentioned me. In college, Carter tutored me in algebra. I returned the favor in economics. In group projects, I filled in his gaps. He repaid me by defending me when professors questioned my attendance after Ella's birth announcement. He continued. But the real reason I'm here is that a few weeks ago, Carter confided you were struggling. Car repair, childcare, coaching Ella's soccer league. I offered him this SUV so you'd have one less thing to juggle. He refused, said he owed you more than that. But he asked me to make sure you didn't decline. I shook my head, tears brimming. I can't accept. Greg placed a gentle hand on my arm. Carter insisted. You're part of their story. Don't let their wedding day be about exclusion. This is your day to be included as family. I closed my eyes, the world tilting. The very groom whose wedding I was supposed to be shunned, sending me a gift of care. A single mom, scuffed flats and all, yet cornerstone to his life. All around me, the wedding party gathered, calling us to line up for family pictures. Meredith floated over, radiant. I braced for tension, bridesmaid gossip, whispered judgments. Instead, she swept me into a fierce hug. Jules, she murmured. I'm so sorry, I got carried away with aesthetics. I forgot who loves me for who I am. I forgot you've always been there. I blinked, voice catching. It's okay. I love you, Mur. She pulled back, eyes bright. Thank you for everything. Carter joined us, slipping my hand into his. Thank you, Mom, he said quietly, nodding at me. Your family, earlier laughs vanished, replaced by warmth and a sense of true belonging. The bridesmaids, aligned in their sequins, welcomed me back with small smiles, some even offering genuine congratulations. Ella skipped between us, cradling the Cuffer-on Flower Girl, a paper sign pinned to her chest. I crouched, looking into her eyes. You ready, Buttercup? She nodded, grinning. Let's go make Mom and Dad proud. As we took our places, Meredith whispered, I want you next to me, Jules. I stepped forward, dignity restored. In that moment, I realized weddings aren't about perfection. They're about the people who show up, who've woven the fabric of your life with kindness, sacrifice, and shared history. And me, I walked down that aisle, not just as an unexpected guest, but as the single mom who taught the groom algebra at midnight, who cheered the bride through heartbreak, who carried the bouquet when her dress got muddy, and who, on this day, stood proudly by their side, under a wisteria arch, in scuffed flats and all. Because sometimes, the greatest gift is not the cash or the chauffeur. It's reminding someone where they came from, and why you'll always be part of their story. Saturday arrived in a burst of lilac and sunshine. The church bells tolled at 3 p.m., their bright peals echoing through the village green, and I braced myself at the back of the bride's cottage, Ella's tiny hand in mine. I wore my favorite wrap dress, emerald green, silk crepe, thrifted last summer but carefully pressed that morning, and a pair of comfortable block heels. The SUV Gregory Steele had arranged sat gleaming at the curb, its black leather seats smelling faintly of new car spray and lemon mint air freshener. I kissed Ella's cheek. Ready, Buttercup, she grinned, bobbing like a sunflower in a breeze. Let's go. We climbed into the back seat, and Gregory, standing in for absent drivers, smiled in the rear view mirror and handed Ella a box of mini brownies. Special delivery, he winked. We slipped away from the bustle of bridesmaids and the rattle of last-minute nerves. As we pulled onto the country lane, framed by lilac hedges, I felt a calm settle. The earlier confrontation, the whispered sneers, already a distant memory compared to Gregory's gift and Carter's whispered words of thanks. A half-mile later, we arrived at the church, old limestone walls, draped in climbing roses, arched stained glass windows alive with the late afternoon sun. A small knot of guests clustered on the wooden pews inside. Emerald shawls, ivory ties, and one daring bridesmaid in a tangerine jumpsuit created a patchwork of color. At the front, Carter, stunned but beaming, waited by the altar, Meredith beside him, her arms linked through his. Gregory nodded to me. You're on. He slipped away to take his place near the rear, cell phone discreetly pointed our way. I took a deep breath and stepped forward. Ella skipping joyfully at my side. The organ surged into trumpet voluntary, and all heads turned. Meredith's gilded eyes widened. Her smile faltered for the barest second, then reconverged into something warmer. Relief, pride, love. The bridesmaids held their bouquets aloft. The pastor cleared his throat. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the family of the groom and bride. I lifted my chin, letting the hush wash over me as we passed down the aisle. Wellsprings of feeling, joy, vindication, belonging, swelled in my chest. When I reached the altar, Meredith took both my hands. I couldn't imagine standing up without you, she whispered. Her voice trembled with gratitude. Thank you, I squeezed her fingers. Always. Ella tucked her brownie box under a pew and ran to stand beside Carter's best man, already wielding a ring pillow embroidered with their monogram. The ceremony flowed like a river. Carter's vows, not scripted but straight from the heart, mentioned a friend who taught me algebra, covered my shifts, and shaped me into the man I am today. The congregation gasped as Meredith dabbed at tears. Carter had woven my story into his future. When it came time for ring exchange, Ella surprised everyone by making her way forward. Ballet flat slipping as she approached the steps. Carter caught her gently. Meredith leaned forward, eyes shining. Ella, she said, will you help us with these rings? Ella nodded solemnly, lifted the pillow, and presented the rings with a giggle. Laughter rippled through the pews. Light, genuine. I couldn't have staged a sweeter moment. After the I do, the pastor pronounced them husband and wife. The church erupted in applause. Organ music soared, and we processed back up the aisle. Party hats and wildflower petals, tossed in a perfect rainbow of celebration. Outside, the sun slanted golden. We posed for family photos, kaleidoscope of colors with Meredith's sequin train, the groomsmen's ivory jackets, bridesmaids' jumpsuits, and gowns in every hue. Gregory hovered, snapping candid shots on his phone, evidence that the wedding had become a story of inclusion, kindness, and surprise. For the reception, the church hall had been transformed. Long wooden tables, mismatched china, wildflower arrangements, a reclaimed wood bar, platters of artisanal cheeses, grilled asparagus bundles, quinoa salad, and a DIY taco station catered to every taste. Cupcakes and a 3-tiered naked cake awaited at the end, wildflowers peeking from the frosting. I slipped behind the bar as the hall filled, offering guests elderflower spritzers, garnished with rosemary ginger, ale mocktails for the younger set, and the signature cocktail, Meredith's Melange, a mix of peach liqueur and Prosecco. Ella, now the honorary ring bearer, escorted toddlers to the craft table, where they painted congratulations signs. As twilight deepened, Carter cornered me by the photo booth, complete with vintage 35mm cameras and a backdrop of twinkle lights. Jane, he said softly, eyes sincere, I owe you more than I can express. You've given us today, our friends, our family, our joy. I smiled, heart full. You gave me my place today, Carter, and I'm honored. He reached into his jacket, produced a small velvet box. I know you didn't wear a tiara today, but I wanted you to have something. He opened it to reveal a delicate pendant, a petite diamond set in white gold, engraved on the back with Forever Family. My breath caught. Carter. He slid the chain around my neck. You're part of our story now, no matter where life takes you. I blinked back tears. Thank you. He pulled me into a hug as the band struck up My Girl and Meredith joined in, leading guests onto the dance floor. We swayed beneath strings of Edison bulbs, laughter and gratitude swirling around us. Later, when the last guests departed and the hall quieted, Meredith found me by the swing set in the churchyard. Ella looping her legs through a tire swing. I wanted perfection, Meredith whispered. But today I realized it's not about dresses or decor, it's about people who show up. I brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. And people who lift each other up. She nodded and I hugged her tight. I'm always here for you, class. No class, tux, or tank top. Ella bounced off the swing and yelled, Mommy, can we stay? I lifted her onto my hip, and she pressed the swing's ropes between her fingers. Only if Meredith's okay with it. Meredith grinned. Absolutely. That night, as we packed away petals and kissed goodbye under the church's flickering lanterns, I realized the true gift wasn't the SUV or the pendant. It was the reminder that our worth isn't determined by our wardrobes or station in life, but by the love and choices we make. I'd been laughed at, excluded, but today I was woven into a tapestry of family and friends, celebrating a wedding that became something far richer than any black tie vision. Walking home under a tapestry of stars, minivan full of Emma and cake leftovers, I felt whole. My daughter chattered about her favorite moments, the brownie aisle entrance, the ring-bearing swing, and I let her lead the conversation. Tomorrow I'd cover my shifts, refill the bookshelves in my little shop, cheer her at soccer practice, and live the life of a single mom who wore emerald green and block heels to a wedding, and was celebrated, not shunned. The world might laugh at single moms, but tonight it had cheered for one who'd refused to be invisible, who'd shown up in spirit, in style, in heart. And that was the real definition of classy.